Hey everyone, welcome to Dallo Podcast, episode 95. This week we're going to be discussing our review of the Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 2 that just came out, about
About two
by the
weeks
time
ago
this
now.
comes out a month ago. For us, it was maybe last week. So, yeah,
Let's dig in.
yeah, let's get into it. So, really good. I enjoyed this one a lot, but I do feel that there was way too much going on compared to how long this video was. I think that they may have shot themselves in the foot because there was this story arc with Batman, there was this story arc with the Wonder Woman, there was this story arc with Supergirl, you had the Psycho Pirate stuff. It was like there was so much going on. I could see where people would get lost in what was happening as the story was progressing. Especially considering like when you find out at the end, it's like the Monitor knows what's going on in the previous movie, and then we're doing this whole thing of like explaining his backstory within everything that's going on. But I want to hear y'all's guys' thoughts, and we can get into it as we go and break it down.
Okay. I definitely enjoyed this one more than one, and I liked one. I will
You
say
just like this one more because it had Constantine.
I'm getting there.
Dude.
I'm getting there. Now, as much of a Batman fan as I am, too much Batman. Too much, too deep all of a sudden with Batman. They didn't give Batman Beyond Terry McGinnis.
Oh my God.
They gave him no love, and that guy's a talker. Okay, he should have been talking his ass off. He should have been just provoking everything around him. But no, they just had him slugging it out with everybody
I'm
else.
sorry, but Bruce Wayne with that suit would not have been able to do anything with Terry's suit. I'm sorry.
No, Terry is just as skilled as anybody on the board.
He's
Just
he is
He's a
half
clone of
Bruce,
friggin'
Bruce Wayne.
Batman,
Yeah,
of course. It's
he's a
like
clone
he's
of
fighting himself.
himself. Yeah. But the
yeah.
thing
So
is that that suit makes him like 3 to 8 times stronger than a normal human. So
right,
he
and
should
he
have
was
been just.
holding back. Clearly, he's holding
Oh
back
yeah,
as he was taught by Bruce.
correct.
And but I mean, I'm glad Will Friedle got stuff because he also did Commandi's voice.
Hmm.
So, and they're both in the next one, which is fine because maybe they get to make it up to him. But there was just not enough for what it was. They should have given him at least a couple of lines to really flesh out who he is as a character.
Right,
And
because you're thinking about the fact that for one, Terry hasn't been technically around for a while. I mean, if you're
he's
just
20
looking at the
years.
original, at least looking at the cartoon, yes, he has made a presence within the DCU comics for a while now, had his own little run, but there's no explanation why he's here in this timeline anyway. Because remember, we're
Yeah.
dealing with multiple universes. We weren't talking about multiple timelines too. So,
And
uh,
there's no
Well, I
backstory.
think I think
Boom.
it's
There it is.
implied that it's not only time, it's
right.
it's space and everything else. So
The
With
only
the
the only inkling that you get that there's a meshing in the comic book run, the Anti-Monitor and a couple of people got all the villains together to counter the heroes. You don't get any of that.
yeah,
All of a sudden,
No.
Joker's
yeah, they're not the heroes
Earth.
are not involved in it at all, except for like when Lex Luthor pops up,
Right, but
and
it's
that's
all.
in the preview.
But the only inkling that you get of that is Joker. You know, he gets like a 3 minute monologue where it explains multiverses. Oh, by the way, you know this one. Here's Killer Croc. You don't know him. Have you met him? All of a sudden, you're like, and anybody who's a Batman fan knows. Wait a minute, they know each other. So you have to put it together quickly that it's another Earth with the one Batman with no sidekicks facing off against a Joker he knows, dealing with a Commissioner Gordon he knows who he is, but not his Commissioner
That's
Gordon.
not his Commissioner Gordon. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's the Robins, there's Batgirl, there's Batman Beyond. It's all there, all in your face. All of a sudden, and if you have any knowledge of what's going on, you can put it together. But the average viewer is not going to know.
Well,
Which was
Jensen Ackles kind of says it for you.
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
from. Why are you? You're not our Batman. Why are you even? Why do you care? Because who made
Because this
put
is it.
you in charge?
Because this is in
You
Gotham
did.
City, so I feel I'm responsible for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody on Earth 2 died. Who died made you king? Everybody on Earth 2.
No,
Well-
Earth 3. He was from Earth 3.
Right, yeah.
The Robin and Huntress are from Earth 2. I'm not sure where Damien is from, unless he's, because at one point I thought, okay, well, he's from Jensen Ackles' Batman Earth 3.
Because they made us.
and then he makes a comment was,
Yeah.
"You're not even from here," and I was like, okay, I'm getting a headache trying to
Yeah.
figure out who belongs where. And then you get the Batgirl, which is definitely almost looks like from the
animated
series,
Batman,
yes.
the
Killing Joke.
series. You get who was the guy that had the armor suit Batman? I can't remember.
Oh,
his
Batwing.
name.
Batwing.
Batwing, yeah.
He's Earth 1.
Batwing, and then you end up with, and you got Terry. And
He's
the
Earth.
problem for me was there was all these people crossing in front of you, and it was all there just so that you got that geek out.
Yeah, it was an
Oh,
Easter
look,
egg.
it's them.
Yeah.
But
Well,
they
Terry didn't
really
even get to
did
talk right away.
follow. They really no, he didn't. And I know me and Colin have talked about this because Colin thinks he said 2 lines. I went back and watched it.
He
And I
said
only found 2. I mean, Colin said 3, and I found 2. And I was like, I might have missed something because it might have been something quickly he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
he did.
they did not get enough time. They focused way too much on Supergirl, and Harbinger wasn't her. So to give Supergirl her time, you got to steal from the actual Harbinger. You've got Constantine playing the pariah, so you've removed pariah from the story. The only one who actually survived, and I didn't think he was going, was Psycho Pirate. They actually got him pretty decently correct in it.
Thing is, they take care of that in the comic book series. They took care of him later on because they haven't even
Yes.
got to the point where him and Flash interact. And I don't know how.
No, and all of a sudden Flash is gone, but he was there at the ending of the first movie.
Right.
I was like, okay, what happened? And I know we're supposed to, because they give you hints that the towers were built and that they've had these waves coming after wave, and eventually they fall. So this has been going on for a while.
Mhm.
And because they're all in the Monitor's citadel, they're protected from that, from what's going on their own worlds. And that teleport is also teleports you not only through space but through time. So
Right.
you can appear in different points in the universe at different intervals.
Which
I
is
was
how, what's his name ended up with Kamandi.
Mondi, yeah,
The
because
Gorilla.
he's from way in the future, and then one of the ones from Gorilla City.
The
Yeah.
last one.
Yeah,
I
is
can't remember his
there.
name at the moment. But that was a good pairing. I enjoyed that.
Oh
part.
yeah, that was really cool. What was it? The problem I had was like you had Dick, and I think technically we don't even know if that was Dick or not. That could have been Tim.
Oh, the older Robin?
Yeah.
No, that was
No,
him
that's Dick.
No, it was Dick.
and Huntress were
It's
together
Dick.
from the same world.
Because
So-
go
But why
ahead.
wasn't he Nightwing?
Because he never
Because
became
that was
Nightwing in
Earth
that
yeah,
too.
movie.
Yeah, that
different
doesn't-
universe. It's
yeah.
different universe, different rules. It's a different version of him, right?
That Robin never stopped being Robin from Earth 2. And Huntress was technically his sister because Batman
Because-
adopted
Yeah,
that.
but- yeah.
with
Rob-
Cat-
Because I mean, it just seems like this Batman was.
well, no,
maybe-
Huntress was
the daughter of
Batman,
Catwoman
and
and
that
Bat.
Catwoman's
Right.
their daughter.
That's why she calls
Yeah.
him Dad. And of course, yeah, we know that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
So
did mention
maybe
that in the
maybe this Bruce wasn't as didn't butt heads with Dick as much as like the comics Bruce did,
no.
right? Because that's what drives Dick off eventually, right? He gets tired of being in
He
Bruce's
wanted-
shadow
he
and
got tired
dealing
of
with
being in
him
the shadow
and all
yeah.
that, right?
Right.
So then he eventually goes off to do his own thing. So this
No.
time it just seems like this was maybe a nicer Bruce that
No, in
You know,
Earth
kept him
2,
around.
in Earth 2, they had a much better relationship, and Dick stayed as Robin into adult.
Yeah.
He just changed his outfit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that Bruce and Selena had a daughter, but he still adopted Dick, so technically they were siblings.
yeah, they're siblings.
Siblings. And then
Yeah.
they eventually, both of them eventually retired.
Yes.
So it was Dick and Huntress and then a few other characters who became the guardians of Gotham,
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there used to be an argument of where did the original Teen Titans come from? Were they from Earth 2 or because remember we got different origins for the Titans at one point. So
Right.
the first time I ever saw them, it was kind of Earth 2. I mean, that because they made Earth 2 the original comics. and then
Golden
we
Age.
got the Perez revamp of the Titans later on, which I prefer that one.
Right, but that was still based off of the original Titans, where they still knew each other and stuff like that. And Raven,
But they weren't this official team. They just kind of hung out, did things together, and they knew of each other. And because remember at one point where and they played upon that in one of the animated movies where all the adult heroes got together and were talking, and they sent was it Damien over to set with the other children's sidekick, and he was like, "Why are we doing this? We're better than this. We could be handling our own team. We could do all our own stuff." And I really enjoyed that because that was a throwback to the original Teen Titans, because they got, as teenagers, got so tired of being in the shadow and being crowd control, or being the people who you go monitor these machines, and they wanted that action, so they started doing it. And I forget which one was the first one killed, and that kind of threw that all away. That made them to where that the adults came in and started.
Wasn't that Mal that died first? I couldn't remember.
So
It's been so long since I read
in the
those.
revamp, they killed Red Star, who became or Firestar, the original Firestar, or Starfire, who became Red Star
Starfire,
later on. They killed him, but that was later on. That was a new vamp. So, but as far as like the replacement stuff in the movie, I thought the way they did it made sense. They were able to put together enough of the storylines, because he technically found Lila in the comic book series and raised her. He didn't hide anything from her at first, but they took Supergirl and made her the analog for that. He just didn't tell her everything that was going on, which kind of messed with other storylines in the comic books. So it kind of worked.
And what they did was I really liked is, if you watch, it's interwoven with all the DC animated movies that we've got.
Yes.
correct. Yeah.
I mean, that when she leaves him, she goes back and does stuff with Clark, and then does that adventure by going into the future, meeting up with Brainy and becoming part of the Legion and all of that. I was like, man, they're really sticking their hands in everything to try to draw it all in.
So didn't one of
Which
the
is-
crises start like the origin for Power Girl? Because I know she was Supergirl and then she changed or something like that.
No, she was originally Power Girl, and she was part
Yes.
of.
She was on Earth 2 originally, I think.
2 or 3.
'Cause she was part of the Justice Society,
Yeah,
wasn't she?
I believe.
And then they kind of brought her over into the main universe during one of the big crisis events.
The original
Yeah,
Crisis.
that's what-
she was
that's
the
what I
one
remember.
saved for the big fight at the end, and then when everything merged, she was there on Earth 1, and everybody's like, "Okay, we're gonna take care of you." So
I also thought that this was supposed to be one of these movies is supposed to have wasn't the last voice acting thing for
next one,
this next one.
yeah, they're already hyping it, and it's coming
Oh,
out.
and I love the fact that it's going to have this is everything the Flash should have been. I'm sorry. If you're going to have a multiverse segment like in the Flash, don't have him just running around and seeing it. This is going to actually interact with these characters, because they're even going to have Adam West's Batman in
I wasn't going
make
to
an
talk about it.
appearance.
I was going to.
Oh, if you've seen the preview,
yeah, if you've
Yeah,
seen
you
the
know.
trailer, I mean, they really dig deep in the toy box.
Well, I mean that's a good thing because I mean I know they're trying to. This is supposed to be the starting point that's going to
Yeah,
bring
This-
everything in for the new DCU stuff.
well,
But-
in part, yeah.
Impartial, yeah. The Psycho Pirate stuff was interesting. Kind of felt
It was
a
close.
little Akira-esque, just
Okay,
a little
yeah.
bit.
The part that kind of took me out a lot when it came to Psycho Pirate, and I guess like listening to y'all talk about some of the other parts of this, it was kind of consistent across all of them, where I kept trying to figure out where in time I was, right? So
Right.
like Psycho Pirate's sitting down and he's giving his origin story, but he's giving his origin story to Dr. Fate in the
Fate,
first
who's
world
in-
that he
Which
existed
did
in.
happen in the comics.
Which we already in the first, and what was confusing about that was the fact that we had already established Psycho Pirate being on the Monitor's bit, because the only bit that we got in the first movie of Psycho Pirate was, him kind of hanging around in the back, Dr.
Background.
Light getting her suit, and then Pirate walking up, getting his suit, and then he disappeared for the rest of the first
Yeah.
movie. So then all of a sudden, the first look that we get him in this movie is him way back in the past explaining even further in the past his origin to Dr. Fate, and then he gets his, multiversal travel bit. I'm like, I don't know why you're showing me this. I get that it's like referential and all the rest of that good stuff, but in terms of servicing this movie and this story, I felt like you could have done that with him talking to Monitor, or Monitor explaining to him like, "Hey, I know about this," and then us getting that way. But the way that they showed it was just really confusing, and it kept
Yeah.
I kept stopping and thinking like, because again, when we first see Pirate and I see him talking to this guy, I'm like, how the hell why is Pirate torturing someone in the
Okay.
monitor station? And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
and all that was going like it was confusing, like it coming from the first movie into this one. It's like, okay, here's a thing that you've established. Pirate is on the monitor station. All right, cool. I want to know what Pirate's doing because I know he has a part to play in this eventually. And then the first shot you give me is, it's like I've been inceptioned into Psycho Pirate in the story. It doesn't make sense. And that's what I kept kind of coming back to, like what y'all are talking with all the Batman characters, right? Like, okay, well, hold on, what universe am I in? Is this his universe, his universe, his universe, his like whose universe is going on here? Why are they all here? Did Monitor just throw all the Bat family together because he felt like it, or like what's going on? Why is this so jumbled up this way? And I mean, yeah, there was a lot of really cool, little nods and moments and things to it. And I'm really curious to see, the setup, because one of the things that we still have from the first movie is that Spectre made a comment to both Pariah and Flash about is they have some part in the
Part to play.
creation of all of this,
Right.
right? So we didn't even get a hint of whatever the heck that is. And as to where Flash is, what like the last place we saw him, he was still in that weird state where he was like,
Kind of jumping
still
through time and
he was
dimensions.
Yeah.
still well, no,
I'm,
he was in like that hyper speed, right? Well, yeah, I guess
Mhm.
the
He
speed
was in
force
the
had
Speed
claimed
Force
him, right?
traveling through.
Yeah. Well, it
So
looked like he
and
was
that's and
looking for
that's
Psycho Pirate at that point. Remember?
well, no, but that's the other
Oh no.
thing. So he shows up in the past and he's confronting Warlord and Batman. It's
Yeah.
Warlord with Batman in the far past, and right there, Barry makes a comment of "It's you. You need to do it." So now he's talking to Batman. So now So now you have three different characters in the third movie you're having to establish as having some major part to play. One who was in this movie almost not at all, which is Flash. One who we finally found out who he was, which was Constantine, and then the third one being Batman. And as far like Batman hasn't been confronted by the Spectre, so like how is Batman also in the same, sort of setup as Flash and Constantine, in that there's like a judgment that's hanging over him, because it doesn't seem like it. So then like what was that scene at the end of the first movie? And so there's like all these little things that are like when you start putting it all together up to this point are confusing as hell. And so like the first movie I really liked, and I really like the overall like story frame of having Barry bounce around, right? And so
Yeah.
he was the
The
thread that we were
connective
following.
tissue.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that we were following through all this narrative stuff, so that I was able to like hold on to and keep a grip of where I was at, who I was running into, who I was experiencing, what was happening. And in this movie, they didn't have that. And so all this jumping
Well, they
around
split it.
stuff.
Instead of one being Barry, this one was Supergirl. It was Psycho
Yeah,
Pirate,
and
and
Batman.
who was the other one? And Batman
Yeah,
were the threads. And
but then you had
they did nothing
Kamandi.
with Superman. Nothing with
Yeah.
Superman.
No,
Superman
barely.
was
No.
helping. He was, remember in the comics, Superman is hyper intelligent, right? He was the one running around fixing and helping build all of this stuff. And this, it was like, okay,
He was just taking care of one tower, and then he
the
got
one tower,
Supergirl to
and
show up,
And
help
then
him
he
out.
went
and
into the
the
background, right? Like he
yeah,
faded into the background, and then we started getting more Dr. Light and all that going
Yeah.
on. And then
I was
it was
like, they just don't know how to deal with him anymore.
They
no.
just
That all they think of him is his powerhouse, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do an segue here for a second. Have y'all seen the picture of the young guy who's playing the new Superman?
Yeah.
Yes.
working
Yeah.
out, and he's just like huge, you know, and he's like even bigger than Cavill was.
Hmm.
And I'm like, you're missing the point. Superman's power is not derived from
His muscles, yeah, his
strength, muscle strength.
Yeah.
It is the way his cells operate. He could be as skinny as a rail and still do all those things as he's absorbing energy.
Y-
He'll
yeah.
start putting on mass eventually, but if you go back and look like what was it when they had Superman, because they gave it to Supergirl in the Flash movie, but it was originally Superman who got captured, was thrown in the
Yep.
government place, and then Batman had to
Flashpoint.
go
Yeah.
Flashpoint and
Yeah.
free, and he was like, he
Rail.
looked like Captain America before he became Captain America, but yet he was super powerful. Quit thinking that you have to make him look huge and bulky. He's not the Hulk. Hulk derives his strength from his muscle mass, which grows as he gets angrier, and that's because he absorbs all the ambient radiation into him to help build that muscle mass.
I mean,
And
you're railing against the popular depiction of a character, right?
Correct.
I mean,
Unfortunately,
you're not gonna get scrawny Christopher Reeves these
no,
days.
I
because-
understand that, but I'm saying it because of that. They only know how to write him in one way instead of playing up on all of his attributes, you know.
Sure.
And I'm upset that in this, where they could have made that change to try to start changing the audience's perspective about who Superman is and what he is, they went back to the old trope. I mean, to this trope that's been around for like 20, 30 years. I'm like, man, come on.
well,
You're
I mean,
supposed to
you
be
think about
rebuilding
it,
this universe. You're
it
supposed to
did-
be making it better.
it didn't help that the Superman animated series had him look like a triangle. You know, he was big, broad-chested with smaller
That was
legs.
Tim. Batman
That was
didn't
Tim.
have
That
I
was-
know,
but
I
even-
know, but I mean,
but what did they do in that depiction of Superman? Right, they heavily depowered him.
correct.
So now he wasn't this ultimate powerhouse. Now you did have moments where you got to see the smarter side of Clark when he was dealing with, Mixoplick and all the rest of
Yeah.
that, right? Like you got to see the actual cerebral
Correct.
side of Superman more in that series, and that's why that series is so awesome and so beloved, right? But that was also a TV series, so you had this time to flesh
had
out
the
this
time.
character and make it
Well, and
make
that's-
all this stuff. And
And that's why I bring that up is the fact that a lot of the kids of that generation, us, are the writers of these comics now. So of course, or these stories. So of course, that's the image that they're having. That's why they're writing him to be a certain way or a certain look. Of course, you have people that were watching Man of Steel that are now the writers for these movies that are, he's got to be bulky, he's got to be this. Of course, that's what's happening. The old comics aren't the medium that these people are grabbing their source material from when they're generating whatever they're doing. And it's at our detriment for the legacy of these characters. It's why I get so angry I'm so adamant about the fact that like you keep true to the source material for a character because you're going to change the public's opinion of how this character is going to go forward. Like why I was so against the fact that we changed Snake Eyes. It's like that's not his origin. It completely messes with his storyline doing that movie they did. So, I mean, you see it in a
What
lot of
movie?
media right now.
What movie you're talking about? I don't.
the
recall.
the Snake Eyes origin movie.
What,
that-
what are you
That
talking
movie that
about?
didn't happen.
Oh,
Yeah, the
yeah.
movie that
That-
didn't
that-
happen.
yeah, it's
I
it's
got
like
you, I
everybody
got you.
keeps talking about this Alien 3 movie, and I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wait. There was movies after 4, 5, and
After two?
6.
No,
Like-
there was only 2 movies. Sorry.
But okay. So Dad, I mean, I get it from both sides. The sad thing is like it kind of looked like when they did the image of him just putting on his clothes with the window and the bed there, or not his bed. It was just like that chair he's sitting on, and you see the glass or whatever, what's going on the outside. It's like, okay, I got to put my clothes on now because I gotta go out. And
I
be
just
a
got through.
hero.
He looks like I just got through kicking.
He look-
somebody's
yeah.
butt. I came home. I flipped my boots off. I'm laying here crashing for a second. All right, I see it. Give me my damn boots. Here we go again. That's kind of what I felt from that, and I could see that. Can you imagine having a life where before you learn that I have to shut things off or I can't help anybody, where you're constantly trying to help everybody who is screaming for you to help them,
And you hear them.
you're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah, you hear
And
them.
then you're going to, then he has to learn. He has to, just like Jean Grey. Remember when they did the origin of Jean Grey, she was going mad because all the voices of everybody in the planet, she could hear them and she couldn't filter them out. And Xavier taught her how to layer those filters in to where she first could see herself. She was lost in the crowd. And then after she could see herself, then she learned how she could add people into that little area.
Mhm.
And then there was all those other people she had to reach out and touch. You know, I understand that. And I think it's a good plot device for Superman because they haven't played up on that in a long time. And I'm sorry, I love Cavill, but I hated the movie they put him in because he ruined a good character.
Correct.
It's just like they did with what's his name from Brandon Roth. Great guy, should have been Superman. Never should have tried to make him a sequel to the Donner, the previous Superman film, Christopher Reeve's films. So this, I kind of lost myself going backtracking there. This thing, Cavill did not seem like a highly intelligent person who could go out and find a cure for anything he wanted. You know, he didn't look like he would go into the Fortress of Solitude because everything was there for him. It was all provided to him by the nanites and the robots and everything. He didn't have to do anything. So his every whim was there, taking care of him. He didn't even have to build his Fortress of Solitude. It was already there. It was a ship.
I mean, in fairness, Reeves didn't have to build his either. He just threw the crystal.
Well, no,
in
his
the ice,
father
right?
did it, but he knew enough to go and figure out things. He builds certain things, and there's a lot of stuff in the background. He beat the Brainiac giant robot, who, you know, in the third one, you know, because of Richard Pryor, was able to write it all down on a matchbook and design the most powerful computer.
Right, the comedian. The comedian that plays a intelligent guy. Yeah.
My point is, just like Nolan's Batman was not Batman to me. He could not survive and walk toe to toe in the DC universe. He was great in a pocket universe. He was not in the he could not fit into the overall multiverse as a character. You know, I would never feel threatened with him because he walked with a cane. You know, that meant he was vulnerable. He could be hurt. The one thing about Bruce is he never showed that to anybody. You know, if you look at all the damage he had done to his body, you know that he was pumped up with something all the time. He had to keep his muscle mass there to protect the vulnerable spots of his bone structure. And we never saw him with anything in the comics or the cartoons with anything other than a heart problem. So when he made in the third one where Nolan was having to walk around in a cane, or was that the second one? Which one was the one?
No,
it was the one with was the third one? Yeah, that's the one with Catwoman, right?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you just trying to make him human. You made them less than what they were.
I mean, in fairness to that movie, right? That was kind of the point, was that it was all leading up into trying to send him off into the sunset, right?
Correct.
That was the whole point of that movie. So yeah, you're gonna show more wear and tear on Bruce, and then lead into him getting his back broken, which is just gonna increase that more, right? And finally prove to him that, okay, I'm too old for this now, and duck out, right? That was so. But I mean, that was just the choice they decided to go with that character. And
except Nolan is trying to bring it back, trying to do another 3 movies. He's talking about a new trilogy of Batman movies, and he's talking about bringing what's the actor's
Christian
name? Bale back. And I was like,
just do it but just don't do it.
Why not just
after
do
Rise?
the one with, why not just make the Robin guy the new Batman? Why not just do friggin' where he's the Batman from the future, you know, where he has to rely more on technology and stuff.
I mean, look,
But
I don't know what you're talking about because I stopped that movie, after the detonation, and Michael Caine like looks up and he smiles, and then I stopped that movie.
Oh, I know. You told me that before.
I don't
There
watch
was
beyond
no.
that guy.
He wasn't on the at the other table. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
no,
That's
no,
garbage. It's like no,
no.
because that doesn't like that makes of all the crap that people complain about with the Nolan movies and how well this doesn't make sense and this blah blah blah. That part, I'm like,
Oh yeah,
okay,
that part was the worst
tar-
because I mean,
targeted dehydration I can kind of deal with, but like being that close to a nuclear explosion and like walking off and being fine, no sir.
no,
I'm
it should have
sorry.
been. It
Yeah.
should have been Clark going, "Hey, Alfred," from the how it should have ended. That's Superman came to save him because that would have been the only way
Oh,
he would have survived.
where there it's Clark and
Yeah,
Batman
yeah,
sitting there
yeah.
having drinks. Yeah. No, I always wanted to, if I could do it, put Danny DeVito in a beautiful outfit with long blonde hair, and like you see him turn and look and smile, and also it cuts to Danny DeVito over there going, "Hi," like, "Hi there, cutie." I was like something funny in line of what David was saying, just not him and Catwoman sitting there. You know, Selena
Yeah.
sitting there and
Cheers
having
with their,
their.
with their cup of tea.
It was like a
Coffee.
Mentos commercial ending.
Yeah, it was. It was. It was.
They should have had them both hold up Mentos.
I'm sorry, but like that movie is the worst. That movie should have had like another villain. It should have been something better.
Hey, look, as bad as I liked the Bane character for a down to earth type Bane character. The the accent
John
was a poor
with a mask
choice.
on his face.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, like,
Batman.
yeah,
But
Tom
oh
Hardy,
my
Tom
god,
Hardy.
it was
When
like
you have the mask on, you
it
automatically
was.
sound like Bane.
But okay, but if you take his voice away, right? Though, right? If you take that part away, his actions and the way that he behaved were like just the part
Yeah.
where he sets his hand, just the moment where he sets the hand on the guy's shoulder. He's
Take
asking
your
like,
power
"Tell
off
me,
of me."
do you feel powerful?" Right? It's like no, that like the things that he did were Bane like, right? Like there were things that you just if you just can just turn that
No,
voice off.
the Mission
Okay,
Impossible,
especially if
the Mission
you
Impossible
are the only
007 movie thing where it's like the plane heist. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna detach this. The plane's just hanging as the other one just carrying it in the
Oh,
sky.
that was great. I
No
loved all of that.
no idea of how like aerodynamics works and how this would probably make the other plane.
Sir,
Um,
let me back you up. This is a comic book movie.
Yeah,
Hey,
without powers.
no, but
but
Nolan
does it
wanted
look cool?
Nolan wanted
Nolan.
that Batman trilogy to be very serious. That's why we didn't get any fantastical villains for.
That's fine.
He does not believe in superpowers. Nolan has said
That's fine.
he doesn't like superpowers. He never wanted to do a superhero movie. Yet he chose Batman
Look.
because it was the most non-superhero. But he fought all these creatures.
I want Colin to say something about this, and then we're gonna go back to the movie we're supposed to be reviewing right now because we will do a Nolan verse Batman
All right.
trilogy review episode in the future.
But hold on. I need a palate cleanser here. If your only experience to Bane was either comics or the
animated
cartoons,
series.
and then you watch that Batman and Robin third movie with the wrestler with the day glow green veins,
the Hulk version of
yeah,
Bane.
Yeah.
and then you look at what they did in that third movie of the Nolan films. Man, that was like planets wide apart.
Dude,
It was
that
so
was
great.
that was part of the reason why. Like I remember because I loved Bane. That Bane only shows up in what 2 episodes of the animated series, one in the original, and then the second time he shows up, it's the dream sequence where he's wearing the weird gimp mask, which I still don't understand that character redesign. But I love Bane. I love the concept of him. I didn't read the comics at the time, but I knew about the story and everything that he was about. So whenever they were showing that they were going to do Bane in the friggin' Batman Forever movie, I was like, all right, this is gonna be awesome. And then the movie comes out, I was like, wow, this is hot garbage. So whenever the Nolan movies came out, the very Batman Begins, when that movie came out, me and my brother sat down and watched it. We're like, oh, okay, second movie's gonna be Joker. They're gonna do the Long Halloween. It's gonna have Two-Face, all that. Now the third movie, I want it to be Bane, and we called it. We said we wanted it to be Bane, and we want you to find out at the end that Talia al Ghul was the one who was behind bringing Bane to Gotham to get revenge on Batman. And we called it all the way back then. So whenever that movie came out and I sat down and watched, I was like, Tom Hardy, I don't know why the hell you did that voice because everything else about you is so good for Bane in this. Why the hell did you pick this funky ass voice? But I really enjoyed it. The main thing that I hate about Bane in that movie is the fact that he gets iced by Catwoman in the dumbest way possible. It's like you're gonna shoot Bane. Okay, you're gonna have Catwoman shoot Bane, and that's gonna be it. That's how you're gonna put my man down. That's how you're gonna end him. This is bullshit, Nolan. What are you doing, guy?
Hey,
But
look. I'll just say this, all right? He didn't have Venom, you know, to get stronger to over topple, Batman. It was just like,
yeah, he was just raw strength, more powerful than Batman. I'm fine with that.
Well, and the sad part about that is if you're going to bring in the Scarecrow's fear gas, why not bring in Venom as a
Right.
military experiment? And it could have been an aerosol where he doesn't have to have it pumped into his vein. It's just you breathe it in and you get this big rust.
big
and
run.
it wears off.
So here's my joke about this, right? So Tom Hardy didn't get Venom in the Batman movie, but he got Venom in the Venom movie, right?
Oh my God, I knew you were going to go there. I knew that's what you were saying.
That's unfortunate. Oh, but Constantine is good. Constantine, I love Constantine. Right?
I was just trying to figure out where he was. Which Constantine was he? The one that was stuck in the House of Mystery and somehow escaped?
That's all the same
every
Constantine.
I was about to say every Constantine is just the same Constantine because of the House of Mystery.
Well,
And
no,
all
the
Constantine are good.
that's in all the animated versions of Constantine. Same one, same universe.
And he is best Constantine.
Yes.
I think he ends up in different universes and doesn't realize which universe he's in at any
That's the
given.
best.
They
Yeah,
did
'cause
they
he
did,
don't
they
care.
did that in the 52 series of Constantine, where they had him hop around a little bit, and then he killed himself after kissing himself to get back home, and then that Constantine's dad came back through with him.
We need a whiteboard with all the
Yeah,
all the
no, we
things.
need one of those. We need one of those string.
Pegboards.
You mean,
You go in
oh,
the
what are you doing? I'm
hotel
knitting a
room.
sweater.
Yeah,
Man,
cheap
I-
hotel with all the pins and the red, the red string, and that's what we need.
I'm really curious about where all of the insane Constantine love has come. It feels like Constantine went from kind of being this unknown little guy way off in the corner here to now he's like he's rapidly gone all the way from some little C-list dude to
To
like
A-tier,
house
yeah.
to household name. It seems like everything that comes out that's going to be DC that deals with magic got to have Constantine in it, right?
Yeah.
Like at this rate, he's going to replace Dr. Fate on the Justice Society of America. It's like, oh hey, we got Earth
Oh,
2, JSA's running
future?
around.
Well,
we
see,
got
and
we
that's
got
the-
we
In the
got
comics, they
Alan
did that.
Scott, Jay Garrett, and what the hell is John Constantine doing here? Where's Dr. Fate? It's like Helmet of Naboo is going to be gone. It's just going to be Constantine everywhere.
Constantine's
going
gonna
on?
use
What's-
it.
And the
The helmet
future
as a stay
storyline.
tuned.
That's right, yeah.
And if we get Keanu Reeves to be able to do his sequel that he wants to do for his original movie, then we'll have two versions. I'm
Yeah.
okay with both him and Matt Ryan doing Constantine. It's just
And
not
then-
fair that
Look,
Matt Ryan
I
didn't get to
love
continue his
Keanu Reeves,
series.
He's getting old, and you might as well let Matt Ryan get a shot at it in a movie. I think he
Yeah.
can handle it. I think.
No,
he can
I
do it.
get that.
think-
Maybe have Keanu do the directing for it, and then
Or
yeah.
at least be involved with it somehow.
yeah,
Well, the
Just
sad-
don't give it to what's his name, the guy who played Fall Guy and Ken.
Oh, Ryan Gosling.
Ryan
Ryan
Gosling.
Gosling.
Look,
Yeah, 'cause he-
I know he has a similar first name to Matt's last name, but
Well, and then the sad
Right.
part
No,
is that
It'll be Bill Skarsgård as Constantine.
yeah, it will be,
There
and
you
he'll
go.
have
Yeah.
like he'll wear Doctor
Tattoos.
Fate's mask.
with makeup all around his eyeballs.
Yeah,
I could see him playing Dr. Fate. I really could.
Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah, I could see him more than I could see Pierce Brosnan.
Here's Brosnan.
Dude, that was
I like
Brosnan was a
Pierce
pretty good Fate.
I liked his Dr. Fate.
Of all the issues with that movie, the one thing that like I was like, you know what, I wish that we had gotten a Dr. Fate movie from that. That I would have been able to sit through and
Yeah.
enjoy that a little bit more. Because he wouldn't have been tied to all the other nonsense, so maybe they wouldn't have made him quite as stupid.
Hey, at least it could be better than his Bond performances. I mean, I'm not a fan of him as Bond.
Hey,
at all.
hey, he was decent as Bond. He was Remington Steele was better. I'm joking.
Right.
Look,
All right.
look.
The
He's
sad part. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say the sad part about Constantine becoming this thing is now we're never going to see technically the most powerful magic user in all of DC, which is Timothy.
Did you just say Harry Potter?
Hey, Warner DC.
Now that's a Freudian slip, buddy.
Yeah, hey,
Well, no,
hey,
no, 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 because the Books of Magic kid, right? The Books of Magic kid.
Oh,
is,
what's his name?
Yeah,
Clarion.
Tim Hunter.
Clarion,
No,
yeah.
no, it's not Clarion. It's another guy.
Oh. The one they
Timothy
did
Hunter.
in Books of Magic. Tim.
Yes, that's Timothy Hunter.
Yes.
He is canonic. If I remember my lore correct, he
Yes.
is canonically the most powerful magic user in all of the DC universe.
Yep.
He was taught by John Constantine, the Phantom Stranger, and oh damn,
which is someone who's in this, you know.
A little bit of Dr. Fate. Well, I
who's the
thought.
other guy? And Doctor Occult. So it's
Yes.
Doctor Occult,
Dr. Occult
Constantine.
really...
Well, but this back in the 90s by Neil Gaiman for I think Vertigo, so he was just
Yeah.
pulling whatever random characters out of the DC back catalog they didn't want to have to deal with. So he had the Trenchcoat Mafia, right? So that was Doctor Occult, Constantine, and Phantom Stranger, and they
And the
helped
Question.
develop.
There were 4 people in the Trenchcoat Mafia.
Okay, but Question has nothing to do with magic, and he had nothing to do with Tim, as far as I recall.
I believe he was the 4th member. There were 4 people in the Trenchcoat Mafia.
Well, he might have been, but in the Books of Magic, the 3 people that taught Hunter were just those 3. Question had nothing to do with it. But yeah, so
I'm
it's like,
surprised we haven't had a Phantom Stranger movie.
What is it? Khmer Rouge or Khmer
no one really knows like what the hell Stranger does.
The magical place in DC. Khmer Rouge, Khmer Hall.
Oh God, where Dead Man hangs out.
That's where Question learned all his stuff.
Yeah,
So
because he went there to try and find a cure for I guess the cancer, whatever disease it was that was killing him.
That's where he learned all his early tricks, and then went back and then developed the mask. He was there first. That's why he was able to go back, and they welcomed him because they already knew who he was.
My favorite.
My tongue out at you.
My favorite, the quote from the Question in the show in this movie. I'm sticking my tongue out at you. My favorite use of Question trying to do magic though is still whenever I forget which event was going on. It might have been Final Crisis, but Black Adam and the Shazam family were all fighting each other, and so he just watches as like Black Adam transforms and Captain Marvel transforms, and then Isis transforms and all these different, Marvel family members transform, and then he just starts saying all the words, right? He's like, Shazam, Black Adam, blah, blah, like all this stuff, and he just stands there for a second. He's like, well, it's worth a shot, and then he just walks off. Like, that's great. That's great. I love Vic.
I got a question, though. Just another side thing. I just want to make sure I'm not going crazy. Morph is just like Mystique, right? He can make himself look like somebody.
No, he can mimic.
He never could have their powers. I don't remember him having their powers.
Physically, if it's a physical like ability, I think he can. I think his power is he can mimic physical powers
up to a point. Up to a point.
Yeah.
So like
because
he super has strength and all that, but
adamantium claws. Where did that shit come from?
Well, remember, unless he's swiping at Wolverine with his claws, they should be sharp enough to pierce through just whatever that he can mimic out of the metal, that whatever his body may be.
Yeah, because I'm just remembering they tried something similar with Mystique in the original X-Men movie when she was fighting Wolverine claw to claw, and I was like, man, and then eventually Wolverine just slices her claw off, and I'm like,
that's
it shouldn't even have happened. Just them two clashing with each other, you cannot produce metal.
No,
because they're saying he can become like Colossus. He can create metal skin. That power is only to mimic what they see, so he can make it look like skin, but it's not going to be Colossus's skin, because when Colossus turns into Colossus, his insides turn into energy. We saw that when they fought the Brood in the comic and they pierced his chest with one of the claws.
Okay.
And he was dying because that energy was pouring out of him. So I was like, they were talking about it today on a show.
Okay, I was
how
about to say,
Morph is
why
the
the
best.
hell did we go from talking all DC,
DC to Marvel.
now you're
Well, because
randomly
we were talking
dragging
about it,
us
and I just have one to ask a question, and I'll let it go.
Okay.
I don't believe that's how Morph's powers work. And did y'all get that impression from watching the cartoon?
Well, I haven't gotten the far where he turns into the Hulk and is smashing a Sentinel, apparently. But the thing is that he's supposed to be able to have a level of their powers as long as he's around them or had been around them.
I don't even know if it's that necessarily. Again, I think it's he can mimic as long as it's a physical power, right? Like he can never do the mind reading thing, being around Jean.
Wait,
He can't do things like that. It's just like physical strength and like maybe flight and stuff like that. He as long as
Look,
it is a physical ability that is a yeah,
but
is
this
that
new
right?
97 show, they're making him the MacGuffin. You know, he can do anything at any moment at the
I constantly forget he's there, to be honest. Like some random character shows up, I'm like, who the hell is? Oh, it's Morph. Okay, and
I
then cut
love
away to all the other
Cullen's
people doing cool
Cullen's
stuff.
so
bringing out his abacus to like try to
yeah, I'm trying
calculate
to.
what's going on here.
Obviously, I don't know who Morph because I haven't watched the show, but he sounds like a cross between Absorbing Man and Taskmaster. Without
That's what they're trying to
having-
make him out to be right now. But originally, he was just Changeling, a version of Changeling and Mimic from the original X-Men comics. And even when Changeling could become Xavier, he had to have
Well,
that special
hold on.
helmet to make him look like he was a telepath.
So something you're forgetting though.
Mimic it.
Remember, he was taken in by Mr. Sinister. We don't know what Mr. Sinister could have done to his genetic makeup to make him or made
Well,
him
then
mutated.
introduce it into the show. Don't just
I
write
know,
it in
we're
and make
assuming-
it
we're
pretend that it
assuming.
was always that way.
I know, but I get that. You have to. But I mean, how many people are like us that like actually care about the lore about stuff and making sure people do it right? I mean,
So when Jackie Estacado gets caught up in explosions, right, and the darkness technically gets thrown away whenever a light source is striking him, and an explosion is a really high, light source. How does the darkness survive explosions? When that happens, because technically, in that moment of the explosion, he's powerless. If we're just gonna jump around to random other comic conversations,
Okay,
we
you're
can just start
sorry.
doing this.
We can
hey,
do
no,
that, or we can go
but,
back to
hey,
what
you know what,
Vince
Dave?
wanted to do.
But David, this actually goes back into what happens in the Crisis 2 part movie with the
Wait,
shadow.
the darkness and Estacado or
No, and
or
then
Morph?
Yes.
Anything to do with shadows, David. Just sit
yeah,
there in the
anything to do with
shadows.
shadows has
Anything
to
to
go.
do with shadows.
This is our
Okay,
segue
great.
back into the Crisis.
So Alec Baldwin in that movie was actually a pretty solid version
Wow,
of the
guys.
Shadow.
Actually,
Genghis-
you want to talk about that movie? I really like that. The
Yeah,
shadow.
It
that
is.
was-
No,
Shadow
it is
knew
good.
everything, but the fact that the gun he was going to hold was going to shoot somebody dead.
Yep.
End of topic.
and the Phantom
Hey,
So we're gonna-
Billy
we're
Zane,
gonna-
man,
Are we
the
going to
man.
completely
That's
end
right,
this
Billy
episode now?
Zane, Billy Zane, boy.
It was great
Watch
news.
out when he whips that zipper down.
Shadow creatures.
Okay, in the JLA movie Crisis in Part 2, the Shadow Creatures, they really deviated from the original idea and the storyline because they were basically, if I remember correctly, they were supposed to be the spirits of the people who were absorbed by the wave. And they were sent back as shadow creatures just to deter everything. But thing is, they were a second run for all the villains that were sent out to stop the heroes from building the towers. So that the timeline in that was all screwed up.
Well, if I remember right, the villains were helping at first, and then they decided to help
The
the
Anti-Monitor.
Anti-Monitor because he'd promised them their own world or universe. Because he
Right,
was
that's what
making
he
a
did to-
whole lot of friggin' deals in that comic,
Yeah.
trying to get people to help him.
Right, and that's what
big-
that's
so-
what they did with Psycho Pirate, because they kind of played up on that with him, because that's what starts this whole thing.
Right. Now, David, to answer
But
your
the
question,
shadows, I always thought were like they were in this. They were because there were shadow creatures that started in Hawkman, and I thought at first that's what they were, but it actually was. They were all little pieces of the Anti-Monitor, and he was gathering energy, and as they returned to his body, he became stronger. That's how I remember it.
So I just randomly took a look on the DC fandom wiki, and this claims that they were actually the essence of weaponers, right? because that's one thing that everyone always forgets is that the antimatter universe used to just be a thing, right? And that's where you got the Weaponers of Kord. Technically, that's where the first Yellow Ring and all that stuff came from because the Weaponers created it. So this is claiming that the Shadow Demons are just the Weaponers that the Anti-Monitor, I guess, manipulated into being these creatures that he used as his little assassins to go try and take people down and destroy the towers and all the rest
I
of
thought
that.
the Weaponers were from the Zone 666 from Green Lantern.
No, they were from the antimatter universe.
So I mean, like,
Uh,
yeah, they all start fighting, and they start fighting themselves. So as I guess they're manipulated by the darkness. But I just thought it was funny because it was like, oh, so we're fighting the Heartless, and then they all formed into the giant Heartless at the end.
Oh no,
That's right.
man.
That's right.
Okay, now
Playing with the King of Hearts.
The Kingdom Heart, yeah, exactly. That's basically became Kingdom Hearts. I'm like, holy crap, where's Sora? Anyway,
all right, one more time, David.
Yes.
When Psycho Pirate was interrogating,
Dr. Fate.
thank you. They broke that storyline up where he's explaining everything to Dr. Fate. They really they took the original storyline and bounced it around a lot more because after he was brought to the Monitor satellite, when he disappeared, that's when the Anti-Monitor originally grabbed him and did all the stuff and convinced him. And then when he came back, he did the stuff after when he was talking to Dr. Fate, because at some point he goes and gets Dr. Fate and tries to get answers out of him on how to help the Anti-Monitor finish his equation.
See, and that would have made more sense.
They bounced it all around.
That was another thing. It was like he was talking to Dr. Fate, like as if Dr. Fate was there, like was trying to get information out of him. He's like,
Yes.
oh, the silent treatment, trying to get me to talk, blah blah blah.
Oh, dude,
And
y'all didn't notice the friggin' arm with the screw in it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
I was like, I
again,
knew immediately that he was a prisoner, not interrogating him at all.
Again, but it was if you're just listening to the dialogue, the way the dialogue
Yeah.
plays,
the dialogue,
it sounds like the opposite. And that again, another moment with Psycho Pirate that it was this weird disconnect between what I was seeing, what I knew, and what I was hearing was just this odd scramble of what the hell is going on and why are we doing it this way?
And there's one thing that's in that giant gap where he disappears that hasn't even been touched yet, and I'm hoping it rounds out because it helps explain the Flash. During that big gap is when he first encountered Flash, and he kept going and doing this stuff, kept going back to Barry. And Barry's like, listen, Barry's being Barry and slowly working his knowledge. At the meantime, Barry is figuring out, going back and forth throughout time, warning everybody, but then he's prisoner again. And then he figures out, okay, the only way I'm going to be able to stop this is by running around this machine and destroying it, which was one of the end machines.
It was a weapon for the Anti-Monitor, but
Yeah.
But
wasn't
Psycho Pirate was there for it because as soon as he realized Flash was gone, he whatever was going on, whatever Anti-Monitor had a hold of him on, snaps, and he starts, come on, Barry, come on, you got to help me, you got to stop this. He completely loses it, and he's tugging on his costume.
I thought Flash disintegrated.
He did, and it was after that happened when because if you remember in the comic books, he started off whole, and every time he went further, he was going through while he was doing the running.
He was looping.
He was jumping through the Speed Force trying to warn people. So every time he showed up after that, he was more decay.
Yeah, it looked like he was
trying to get to
his,
Batman and Joker.
his energy.
yeah,
He was in
his
really
mass.
bad shape, and Joker's like, whoa, what's he doing here? Joker completely freaks out, and then Batman's like, what the hell? And it wasn't long after that where Barry actually disintegrates and fades into nothing, and Psycho Pirate there.
Yeah, well, it's because
it was taking all of his energy from him. It was
the treadmill was fed on the for the cannon was fed on the Speed Force and time,
right.
and
but if
one
you
other
remember,
thing, and that's why it had to be buried on that treadmill, and
Yeah,
when he died, that weapon didn't function, but it fired, right? I remember it firing, but I don't think it did everything.
no,
it was
Barry got it
supposed
to implode on itself, and he wasn't
implode
just on
itself,
the
yeah.
treadmill at the end. He was on the
He,
circular.
well, as he was running on the treadmill, you saw that pulse looking like he was leaving. So as he was running, he was still there, but other versions of him, because Barry could make other time
Yeah.
displaced versions of him, and that's what was all over the place. Because
But
he was
also
trying
on some of
to
the
hint
machine
and
work.
tell people, trying to get everybody to understand what was going on. But
And they haven't even covered any of that.
But
And-
yeah, and I was like, there was a segment in this one where Psycho Pirate, I can't remember what his human name is, was standing there and he sees Barry running around trying to save people. And Barry's running through that earth that he's on, and there's nobody left. And then he goes around a corner, the Psycho Pirate goes to look for him, and he's gone.
Isn't that when Harbinger showed up and grabbed him or whatever?
Yeah, that's when Harbinger
Yeah.
showed up. I was like, okay, why are you doing that? Unless Barry is a prisoner of the Anti-Monitor right now, and we're starting to see what he's doing, and that will play a bigger role in the final movie. That final episode still has so many things it's got to do.
Right.
I'm
So
just
is this
wondering
one gonna-
how long it's going to be.
Yeah, they're gonna have to make this one longer because it felt
Yeah.
like this second
And
one was
there's one
shorter
more-
than the first one, and I didn't really pay attention. I
Right.
didn't look to see what it was because there was so much going on.
David's got him right there beside him.
There's
He just
not
reach up and
enough-
grab him.
There was not enough time to be able to
Get him
tell
and
what
see
needed to
how
be
long
done.
the movies are. Or is there a difference in their run time?
The links, yeah.
But there's also one more character that hasn't been introduced, and I don't know if they're going to be able to because of all the legal wranglings, and that's Superboy Prime.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to do that.
Because
I would
The
think they
way
would
they-
have introduced
because-
Superboy by now. I think if anything,
he plays such a
Superboy
pivotal part later on through all the rest of the crises.
they'll well, we're not going to get all the other crises, right?
I
Like,
know
it's
that, but
this and-
the thing is that Superboy Prime was necessary for the total story of the Animon.
they'll probably give some of his story to maybe, or at least
I mean, I'm thinking
probably
there's gonna be an
the
analog
defeat.
replacement.
Oh, that's what I was about to say. Probably the defeat of the Monitor, and some of that will probably come from like the Tomorrowverse Superman, right? To be able to give him his little send off or whatever. So, so the first movie was 93 minutes. The second movie was 95 minutes. So and that's
Wow.
pretty.
Only 2
standard.
minutes. Yeah.
That's pretty standard for the DC animated stuff. You're
Yeah.
looking at about 90 minutes, right?
90
They're
minutes.
always about an hour and a half. is
That's-
what you're
but
getting
that's
I
the
at.
think
problem.
it would have to be 2 hours. For
Yeah,
the
it's
next
gonna
one.
have to be 2 hours because there's too much going on
There-
to
there-
wrap this up. Because like we still haven't, other than the fact of like him manifesting in the world after he grabbed all the shadow creatures to become one to form him in there, like and then him changing into like morphing his or evolving his ability to where he's not just weak to light and everything. He has that armor on
He's
him.
gonna armor.
Yeah, he's horrid with the soul because he's.
I was like, why did he look like the super adaptoid with that armor? I was like, give him the armor, the reverse version.
I didn't
of
even think about
the
that.
Monitor armor.
What was funny was before he got the armor, I was
Super
thinking
Adaptoid.
of one of the villains from the original Teen Titans series, right? Because they fought like a weird, not quite Clayface looking thing that was all black with the red mouth and all that. They fought a creature like that, and I was like, oh, there you are. That's cool.
Yeah, I
So
didn't
like
think about that, Vince. The super adaptoid. What if because if you go back, you got to remember there was a version of the super adaptoid through a Mazo in one of the animated series where he ended up going off into space because he was gold. What if
Yeah, that was Justice League. That was the Justice League
right?
series.
But what if that character becomes the Anti-Monitor?
Hmm.
It would be a blending of characters, but they've already done that. That's
And
it.
see, they're already cutting out. Like, I don't think we're going to get the whole thing of Cronus looking at the beginning of time. All that stuff is gone, which would have been great to set up the Green Lantern stuff they've got coming up. But I
That's-
think they're trying not to touch everything that has possibly
ties or
something new coming because there's the new Green Lantern series and all this other
Well,
stuff. So
But
we don't know
from
what they've been told they can do versus what they can't.
Well,
Well, the
it's
funny
James
thing-
Gunn now. He's gonna specify if you're gonna have these things, you need to have them in this order, and they're probably gonna do like they did at the end of the Crisis on the TV series, the Arrowverse stuff, where they hint at what this is this and this is this, and everything does these things. They're probably gonna give you moments like the new Superman and the Green Lantern Corps. They're probably gonna do it in flash forward type of things. That's what I see the end of this being.
And the funny thing about this series though is like I'm really curious what the hell they're gonna do with the Lantern in the next movie, because he has no battery, he has no ring
No
now,
ring.
right? He has been completely and utterly depowered at this point.
Depowered, yep.
Yeah.
But from the trailer that we saw, we're getting Aya, who technically was the Anti-Monitor for a minute, right? So that'll be interesting to see what exactly they do with her from the animated series. I don't know, man. This last movie is gonna be stuffed to the gills with stuff.
There's gonna be a lot.
They're introducing.
But yeah, they've got too many characters to still introduce, and they're still throwing more Batman in there,
Mhm.
which is fine and dandy because we know there's going to be at least two more Batman. There's the Batman animated series, Kevin Conroy send off, and then there's the Adam West one, which makes sense because that's the same one that was in the original Super Friends, and it's also the one that was done in the two Bruce or the Adam West animated movies
Mhm.
that they did. So they get to put a bookend on that. So that
Well, and,
kind of makes sense. I just don't know how they're gonna. It's. I'm hoping it's not just something for fan service. I'm hoping that they have a legitimate reason for it.
So
yeah,
did they?
it's
There's
not,
too many
not just a-
Batman.
Did
yeah,
they do the
not
whole
just
thing?
a-
Oh, go ahead, David. I'll
I was
say.
gonna say, yeah, just not hoping it's not a giant bag of member berries, right?
Yeah.
So weren't you saying that, like, I know when we were talking about the first one, like the possibility of what the Spectre being Hal?
I don't think it's Hal. I mean, it would be cool if it was, because you did
Because
see
we haven't
Hal
seen
for-
him. Yeah.
No, he shows up for a singular scene whenever
In part two.
when they're initially no, I think it was
No,
I
yeah,
watched
in
them
part
back.
one, yeah, I
In
remember
part
seeing
one,
him
he
there.
shows up and they're going around because it's when they're trying to establish the team, right? And they go up to him and he's like, I'm already a part of a team. It's called the Green Lantern Corps. And he
Yes.
flies off and they're like, man, he's a real asshole. And then John shows up and they get with him. But so we know he's around, but no, I think it's Corgan, right? Like I don't think they would go so far as to
Yeah,
make it
because he
Hal.
plays a big role in the end of the final battle.
if they like,
if
depending on what they
stick
follow,
with
right?
the original story.
I mean, that's the crazy part about this. And the more I think about it, the more I think about, man, I'm now starting to kind of worry that they're going to sideline Superman even more, and this next movie is just going to be even more of like a tour de force of just Batman, right? Like,
Oh, I hope not.
although the cover has Superman holding Supergirl
Yep.
and all the rest of that, right? So hopefully he's not completely out of it, but
I mean,
I don't know, man. I'm kind of worried.
thing is, they had the two Supermen all the way to the end, and then they had Superboy Prime, and our Superman kind of freaked out when Supergirl died fighting Anti-Monitor, and then he went in, and then him and the other Superman went in together, and they were bashing on Anti-Monitor real good, and then the older Superman,
Yeah, the Golden Age Superman.
yes, threw Clark just off, said no, and then he finished it. And
Yeah,
there's
so
not
that's
even
what I mean.
anything that's going to happen. I mean, there's a
Right.
couple of Supermen, but you don't know what, who, where, what, nothing.
Yeah, the best you've got is you've got old Superman who's hooked up with Wonder Woman, right? Because Lois died and all
Yeah.
that. That got established in this movie, and then you got the Superman from Tomorrowverse, which is the one that
Yeah,
was
which is
established
the
on these movies.
Kind
So
of
that's where
funky looking one. with
yeah,
the
so
hair.
that's the one where I'm thinking that they're going to take that side of it, and they're just going to use it with those two. But I mean, that's kind of
Well, I wonder where War World is in all of this, because if you remember War World, there are clones of all of these heroes just sitting there, in War World. And I was like, if you're not going to do War World 2, but you want to give some closure, let them find that, break out some of the heroes, just have this big, massive,
They're
where
going to do
you've got
something.
hundreds of Wonder Women, 100 of Supermans, and they all go in and they start kicking on the Anti-Monitor and all the other. I really don't think they're going to bring the villains into this.
I think
Well,
probably that
that's
was the
gonna be
only
their-
thing we got with Joker and
We got,
Yeah,
because the
I
only
mean-
one we got Joker and we saw Lex, and that's
I mean, we got
pretty
Killer
much
Croc.
it.
well, there was Killer Croc and there was a scene
Well,
where
yeah.
Penguin was there, I think.
Wasn't Tiger Shark there for a minute, or not? King Shark? Didn't they have him in any of it so far? I can't remember.
I don't think so, but I know I did see Penguin. Like there was a shot where you just
There was a shot of Penguin, yeah.
yeah. So and
But
it's just
what are you
weird
going to
that
do with Penguin? What is Penguin going to do in this kind of galactic battle?
Right?
I don't know. He's gonna hide.
He's going to be running and hiding somewhere.
No, he's
Oh,
gonna
that
go
would
and
be great.
steal all
Have
the
him
items.
sitting there on this turret gunner, and just shooting.
Only,
at the
only
Shadow
if they
Baby.
did it with Burgess Meredith's version.
Or
Since
they
we're
get
in
Danny
the,
DeVito to come do the voice of him.
Oh, that would be fun.
There's just a lot of stuff that we're not going to get that's sad because
Is it
I've
too
wanted
late?
to see it?
Is it too late?
do you
to
think they're gonna
introduce new
have-
characters in the third one?
I
No.
think so. I think you've got too much stuff left over, and you're going to have to rob from that storyline by
Well-
bringing somebody else new in.
Well, we already
again,
know they're introducing another Batman, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
say no. I'm gonna say no that there's gonna be at least one more character of some significance that's gonna be introduced. That's gonna be a game changer for it, and we're gonna see a lot of new characters, just like we did in this one, but they're not gonna have much substance.
Yeah, it'll be a cameos. I mean, do you think that like
I can't
That's
wait for
gonna
the
be
big
the thing
fight between
for
Spectre
the
and
Batman in
the
this
Anti-Monitor.
meeting Kevin Conroy's Batman and being the inspiration for him to start doing what he needs to be as Batman instead of just being the solo guy? You know, because we know
I
that
think
the animated
that we
series
just-
went through the whole thing of all his having his crew and
Right.
all these experiences, and we know that
I think
that's Terry's mentor. You know, that's the version that Terry was cloned from. So
I think what we're forgetting is that there are a lot more heroes on the on the monitors base. And there were a lot more worlds. We only got to see a specific number of worlds. They can introduce all these heroes and have them had them there all along. I mean, and so
well, because Dr. Fate was there this time around. We didn't see him in the last one. Of course, Terry.
Well, I think Fate was kind of not. When he goes, okay, guard, and then they come in and open him, I was like, okay, is Fate in the tower? And he got himself held prisoner because he was mad? What kind of prison? Because he wasn't in an Anti-Monitor prison.
I took that more to be that, again, that was because that part establishes Psycho Pirate's ability to bounce around between the multiverse, right? Dr. Fate gives him that ability.
Yeah.
So that version of Psycho Pirate is his initial world, where according to his backstory, he is a super Nazi, right? So that was some kind of super Nazi prison where I guess they have defeated and captured the Justice Society, so that he was there interrogating Fate as a part of the Nazis, right? So as he was leaving, that's what he was the commander of some Nazi regime dealing with Fate in that moment. But
I'm gonna go back and read the series again because that actually happened in the comics. I just don't remember the whole story around it. So I'm gonna have to go back and read it.
This is a missed opportunity to have, at least, like, since we're dealing with multiple worlds, we would have the Teen Titans Go show up. Maybe not the goofy one, but the original one we got.
Yeah, well, I was about to say that it's not Teen Titans Go.
Yeah, no,
Teen
we're not going to have chibi versions of them running around.
But it was
yeah, but and then you'd have, like, you could have Static Shock show up. I mean, there's a lot of, like, characters you could just throw in this one now because it's your last hurrah for this story, especially considering, like, what everything gets condensed down to one universe after this.
Yeah, well, see, and that's the other thing I want to ask you, because originally they were condensed down to one. Then they were broken apart into 3, and then eventually in 52 they were restored to all 52 universes.
Yeah.
So are they going to consolidate it all down, or do you think maybe they'll be like, just key specific worlds, like in the Flash TV series that survived. They couldn't save everything, but everybody who couldn't be saved was either moved into the one single universe and then re-brought back out once they did the three and then the full separation. I'm just kind of trying to figure out where they want to go with the end of this.
I'm thinking because I mean, let's think about what we have established, right? Like we know that going beyond this, we have all the stuff that's supposed to be tying into all the live action movies, right? So we have that established, but we also know that Gunn has talked about them doing Elseworld movies.
Elseworlds,
You can't do Elseworlds if you're condensed to a single
with
planet.
one single universe.
So I think that after this, yeah, you're going to have a collection of plants, right? We're not gonna. I don't even know if they'll give us a number. It'll probably just be some vague. Hey, we saved some portion of the multiverse, and then we'll get this big wide shot of a bunch of random planets that we can sit there and try and count and figure out how many are left, right?
That's another
But,
question. The Elseworld ones, like the Gotham by Gaslight movie and stuff. And
we didn't get to see
Dark Knight
any of the Elseworlds.
Are any of them going to show up, or are they
Red
going to be
Superman.
referenced?
There'll
in
be
the
there'll be a
rebuild?
thing in the background.
I'm thinking,
Right.
like I said, like the end when they show the different ones, they're going to show the Gotham by Gaslight as being continuity, but an Elseworld type of thing.
Yeah.
So
I
now,
I
will
think that's
characters that are not on the planets that get wiped out, they still exist. So, like, if Terry is there on a planet that doesn't get wiped or condensed, is he just going to erase from existence because his world's gone, or is he going to be because he's there? Like, he's outside the time stream, so nothing changes for him.
That's what happened.
Well, they literally rebuild the universe, the first one, and that's how come Justice Society and the Justice League could exist in the same world
universe,
again,
yeah.
and all this other stuff. And it wasn't until people were like, okay, we're starting to mess up here again. We tried to do 0 Hour to fix it, and then that didn't fix it. And we started doing all the other Crisis. And then once they broke it out to 3 world, there was Earth 1, Earth 2, and Earth 3. And then once the whole 52 started was because
Flashpoint.
artists wanted to do their own things.
Oh, the first flip
with
the first
characters.
52 or the
So
second?
52 was exploded the universe back out into the multiverse, but there were 52 specific Earths at that point.
And that's the first 52, right? Not the second one that started because of Flashpoint.
No, that was the first one. Yeah. So it really depends on what Gunn wanted and how they wanted this to play in. They may not even have wanted this to play into Gunn's universe, and they're going to let it end like they wanted to let it end. And this, because I think the whole new animated verse is going to start with the
Creature Commander,
the monster
or
the
whatever.
Creature Commandos, and then he's already announced the next cartoon, and I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, but here's a thought: maybe that all of this animation stuff, the way they're going to end it with Crisis, they're going to make that an Elseworld. That way, it would still whatever they're going to do with that stuff. If they want to tell more stories based around that stuff, they could still do Elseworld, Justice League Elseworld, Batman Elseworld, blah blah blah, and then keep that separate, and then have all the different offshoots, and then have Gunn's DCU, EU, whatever, be the main thing.
Come here, you.
I mean that would be a way to go about it, because that way they could reference as much or as little as they wanted to for the Elseworld stuff with the animation stuff that's come all the way to this point. And apparently they're going back 50, 60 years with it, with the animation stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is the opportunity for them to be able to like cross multiple animation styles in one film, just because of the fact they're dealing with the multiverse. And technically, this goes back to the whole thing we talked about. If they were to bring in the Spider-Man stuff, the live action, into the Miles Morales movie, the last one, and have them walking around with animated characters, but we don't know how they're actually going to do that. But you could do that in this. There's a chance that like you could have Henry Cavill show up, or Grant
John Wesley Shipp's Flash.
Yeah.
I mean, getting at the Arrowverse, because there's already been hints at the Arrowverse stuff being in there.
Right.
Well, yeah, I was expecting
the
us to see
Vixen
a few
and
of
Green
them,
Arrow
but
stuff. a lot of
But
that stuff.
Wouldn't
the
Barry
Green
show
Arrow,
up?
all the Green
not Barry,
Arrows
but-
they've shown have been from the comic and the cartoons. They
Yeah.
haven't been anything from the live. Nobody from the live action has appeared in it yet, but we do
Vixen.
know that they're doing
Vixen?
Adam West well, Vixen, but we do know. But Vixen was around before she appeared on Arrow,
Right, but they did the Vixen animated
and yeah, they
Ray
did.
stuff, and those two are in there.
Yeah, Ray was in there.
So,
So, the what's his name? Damn it.
Who do you play?
Adam West is going to be in as a cartoon version of him. It's not the live action. So I
Yeah.
don't think
So-
they're mixing genres, live action and
Okay.
cartoon.
I
And
mean,
that's what
it would be too hard to do anyway. I mean, you could
Right.
do it, but
they
yeah,
don't want to spend money on that.
right.
But that's what we were saying earlier. The Adam West Batman isn't just the Adam West Batman from the TV series. He's the Adam West Batman from the Super Friends. And
Yeah.
Well,
that,
yeah,
and that
And
same
see,
one was also in the Adam West Burt Ward.
the Burt Ward cartoon,
movies.
the two movies.
So
Yeah.
it's still the same Batman.
I'm hoping, and would be great, is that they do have the Super Friends show up in this. I would love to see either the Wonder Twins or the original brother and sister with the dog Wonder
Dan and
Dog.
Jane.
You could add
And-
Superboy if this is also connecting into the the Justice the Teen Titans show where Superboy with the black T-shirt.
Well,
with
the clone of
Yeah.
Superman and Luther.
But you
Yeah.
could just make
Show up,
him. You could literally just make him Prime.
And considering how great Young Justice was, I'm surprised we haven't gotten any of those characters to show up in this.
Right. So the third one is either going to have to be, sardine packed full of goodness, or they're going to just, a lot of this stuff is just not going to get any love or acknowledgement. I don't think there's going to be any happy medium.
Well, the good thing is that we're at least getting good stories like that. This is playing out in 3 films, right? Versus
Yeah.
like X-Men, where right now it's just like, hey, we're telling 30 stories in one episode, and we're just going to truncate the best of it into this one thing. And it's like, oh, hey, remember this happened? It's a member berries and stuff. And it's like, come on, guys, just put the time in, put the effort in, tell great stories. But
And I mean, and kind of like what we're talking about, right? Like you can condense down some of the stuff and still make it make sense and still make it work, right? Like instead of having another character be Harbinger, just make it Supergirl and conform her story around that to make it work for that character. It's like you can trim down some of the fat from it. It's just being careful with the way you do it. Be conscious of what you're doing and making sure that it still fits within the overall narrative of the story, right?
yeah,
Right. I mean, I'm curious to see if because I know that Constantine / Pariah is in the third part. I just want to see how they got to where he's, how did he become Pariah? I mean, he's already been around a long time. They're playing on the Vertigo version of Constantine, but it's still the same one from the other animated stuff. Because if you remember that they had the House of Mystery one where he changed his look for a while in certain parts of it, so that the animation style reflects that. But how did they get from him being Constantine almost to like Old Man Constantine, where they went back and said, okay, you're going to have all these burdens of everything of your entire life, but now you're going to be this guy who wanders, not knowing who you are, but you have these abilities and you're warning people. I want to know how they got
and he had been that way for
a
I don't know
while.
how long? Decades?
He said
Yeah.
hundreds
No,
of
he said-
years.
Yeah.
No, I think
Which
he
means-
actually went to thousands. Like
Okay.
it was
Yeah.
a really long
Because
time.
they're almost doing like what is it, Vic Savage?
Vandal Savage.
Vandal Savage, yeah.
Yeah, they're
Who was
almost
the-
going that route with him. And where's
Well,
Vandal?
Vandal Savage was the one of the first humans on the planet Earth. as a
Exactly.
caveman,
I think
so.
he actually
Are they
is the
are
first
they
one.
merging him with Vandal Savage? Because Vandal Savage didn't show up anywhere in all this, and I do seem to remember
No,
being a
There,
part of
if
somewhere.
if they try to merge him with Vandal Savage, that would be nuts. I just I think of all the stuff that of all the plates they've got spinning in this, That's the biggest one I want to know. I want to know what on earth did Constantine, Batman, and Barry do, right? Because those are, again, going back to it, those are the three that Spectre has only spoken to Constantine and Barry,
He
but
talked to the
And
monitor.
monitor,
but
And-
I'm
and
sorry,
the
and, well,
monitor.
but Monitor's dead now. Um, spoilers.
which had to happen because
no, it had
that
to
is
happen.
how they get into
Yeah,
that
and
that
again,
dead
that
zone area.
But-
that played pretty close to the comic book.
Yeah, it did.
Right.
They did.
But then Barry talking to Primeval Batman for some reason, which I guess that there's your tie-in to Warworld, right? Because that was Batman in that point, right? So that was a
Yeah.
little bit of a but then again that raises the question, what does that have to do with what we're dealing with right now? You know, what does that have to deal with what did Batman do to trigger Constantine and Barry to again draw the ire of the Spectre onto them? Or
Yeah.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
think he says the Spectre had the eye. It was this eye. I mean, it was
no,
'cause Spectre
Spectre,
represents the. They don't call him God in this. They call him
the presence.
the presence. Yeah, but I think he hinted that the presence had a role for them to play.
Well, he said
He
said that
didn't seem to be like he was making choices at all.
no,
He
but
was-
he
he was obeying
but
orders.
but he specifically he told Barry, right? He made a comment to Barry about how God, how did he put it? He was saying that he was basically saying that Barry had a hand in in the crisis, and the way that he was terming it made it seem like something about what was going on was directly the fault of something Barry did, right? That Barry had done
Oh.
either in the future or in the past.
Could be
Barry had done
Flashpoint.
something
The,
that sent
Flashpoint?
all this into motion.
Maybe
Could
he
be.
was.
The second,
Maybe it was
the second
Flashpoint?
Justice League Dark movie,
Apocalypse War.
Apocalypse War. Who talked Barry into going into the past to fix it again? Constantine.
Oh,
Right there,
you're
right at
right.
the island. Right at the island.
On the
of
wall, yeah,
island.
on the island.
He leaned over into Barry's ear and goes, "You know what you can do to fix this," or something like that, or "You know what you have to do." And Barry takes off, and nobody tries to stop him. And
But that is why Constantine was punished and stuck in the House of Mystery. Remember, because
he
through
made a-
that he was like that was his purgatory. That was where he was
Yes.
punished to relive his life over and over again. Every day was a new start, and he at the end of it he would die.
And how long can the
so-
House of Mystery exist? Thousands of years.
Yeah,
In and out of
thousands of
space and
years.
time. So it's somewhere along the way he goes nuts, becomes pariah.
Okay,
That would explain it.
so
what
we
would
have
birth the
Flash
anti-monitor then?
for we have Flash, which
But
is
that's not
because of
this Flash.
Flashpoint. We have Constantine because he told Flash to try to fix what he had caused, and then
To
because of
undo it.
that he gets punished. Okay, so why Batman? Because David
Well-
was said there were three of them, right? You
Well-
said Batman.
Well-
was one of them.
so okay, so
They show a lot of
Constantine-
Batman.
Constantine and Flash are being punished. We know specifically because Spectre talks to them, right?
Right.
And
Spectre-
it's Barry as he's bouncing around through time, sees Batman with Warlord, and makes the comment about, you know, it's you need, and he's saying something to Batman in that moment, right? And saying that he needs to do something to stop it. And we have
Yeah.
no idea what the heck he's talking about, what's dealing with it, right? And so that's again, but also this Barry isn't that Barry from Flashpoint, right?
No,
'cause
he's
that was-
not because
But then
The
he
thing
has
is,
to
all the
leave-
berries interact.
Right,
maybe.
he had
And-
to die, and then he gets brought back.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to this question of I'm really curious to see how they're going to establish, you know, what the hell Spectre is talking about to Barry to Constantine, and then what Warlord Batman has to do with.
I think
deal with all
that's
this.
later on when they're jumping around in time. I honestly, I think that point is going to come up yet in the third part.
Sure, and
Barry,
again, they might
Barry
explain
hasn't
it,
started
but-
really popping around yet. They've only shown one or two instances.
and let me ask a question if I remember right. In the comic series, they kept telling the Spectre he could do something about this. You're powerful enough. Why aren't you playing? And he was like, I can't. I can't
Right.
do this. But yet he did in the comic.
at the end.
because there's he at the end. So I'm trying to remember what was the trigger that made, because he got in trouble with the presence, with God,
Yeah.
because of his interaction there and saving the.
Right. And they also
I
played up
cannot
on
remember
that
what the trigger was that made him do what he did. I'd have to go back and look at him.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and read
Maybe
it. It's been so long.
it happened after Barry's death.
Yeah, I know that.
I mean,
yeah,
Barry was such a universal good that it pushed a lot of people, you know, especially when he showed before people. You know, in the villains were like, "Whoa, what's he doing here?" And the heroes were his friends. That was the Barry was not. He wasn't like the hope of like the Green Lantern hope, but he was always a center. And
he
that's
was
why
okay. I always considered Barry like Rick keep wanting to say Rick James, Rick Jones in Marvel, who was the core of the Marvel universe. Everything
heart of it.
revolved around him, the
Yeah.
heart of it. I always thought of Barry as that.
Yes,
Yeah, the conscious, because he was such a good man, such a honest person,
he was the
and
same.
that
no
only
matter what.
only when he got selfish did he mess things up.
Right.
Like when, yeah, like doing Flashpoint, that was purely a selfish act, which cost him dearly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, man, because I've never been hyped like this in a long time to see how something is going to be concluded. And I just, if I hope they stick that friggin' landing. I hope that
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is it, and I'll be happy to see their old animated universe go out, because the one thing that DC did right, the Warner Brothers did right, it was their animated movies.
So,
Well,
absolutely.
they were screwing everything else up, man. Those were the best. And so stick that landing and give us something that we're going to remember.
If this is going to wrap it up, do it right. Just
Well, the
put
good thing is that if you wanted to, because of whatever they're doing this, and if it does affect what's going on for the future films, is that we can get Wally. And technically, wouldn't he be
that's what happened.
Kid Flash? Want to be running around right now too?
Well, I'm just wondering, where is Wally?
Where
because
Yeah, the
Had
Flash
been
that
shown the
the
Legion.
only Flash that we know that we're getting in the next movie, technically per the trailer, is Jay,
is Jay
Garrick.
Jay Garrick, right?
because you
but
see
there-
him
there's
for a
still
moment
no-
in the trailer.
There's
I'm hoping they don't give him the death scene. That would have been
For Barry?
Barry's. Yeah.
like they did in the TV series, where Flash technically got his ending, but it wasn't Barry. It was John Wesley Shipp's Barry.
Yeah.
Because everything else of his was gone. He said, "No, it's got to be me. I got to do this," and he was the generator for the Anti-Monitor's weapon at that point in the TV series. It was a good way to handle it, so that they could, change the history of the Flash is gone, and kill the Flash and make that part of the history, more poignant. But it just, I don't know. It was good, but it wasn't. It was a little. So if they do that with Jay Garrick in this, in the third part, that would suck. That would not be sticking the landing.
Yeah. And then, like, in the original, Barry's wife had gone to the future. Iris was in the future. They had children.
Yes.
Part of his thing was to go, before he died, to go visit them one last time. And I remember how that it just gave you this gut feeling that we were going to see him die, in the comic. And sure enough, he does. And then Supergirl's death seemed almost superfluous,
Yeah.
Whereas in this, they've really built her up by combining her as two different characters and the heart of everything. If they're gonna do it, I just want to know how they're gonna do it. Do it.
I mean, I think it's going to be a similar way to what they did in the comics. It's just going to be more poignant because of the fact that she's two characters in one character. She's going to be.
Yeah.
She was driven by hate and love at the same time because of the whole interaction with Monitor.
Mm-hmm.
So being the two parts that are both parts going to continue to show up, or is it just going to be a really pissed off Supergirl like there was when she thought Clark was dead in the comic?
Yeah.
Just went all ham on the Anti-Monitor, was whooping on his ass until he caught his second win.
Yeah.
And if they do it that way, I'd be fine with that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of question marks. You know, it's like the Riddler's suit with so many questions.
Well, it's definitely been fun and engaging. So I need
Yes.
to watch it again with Anna and Edward because they haven't seen it. I just watched it, by myself. So I could be
Well,
ready
I
for this.
think what I'm going to do is wait until the third one comes out and then watch them all
You know
back to
what?
back to back.
That's what I
so
wanna do.
we're refreshed, and then I'm ready for that third one, and I go right into it.
So we can discuss it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um.
And that way we'll have fresh memory of the whole thing, and we're only a couple of months out from the actual release of it.
Well, and that may be a thing too, is that we may just do like a two-parter episode where we go talk about the third part and then go into the discussion about the whole as a whole.
How we felt that they did through
Mhm.
as a whole story.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing. I love Commandy. I read those comics as a kid, man. I loved Planet of the Apes, and it gave me both that. It was Tarzan. It was all those great stories that I grew up with. And watching him in this, I was like, give me a Commandy movie. Give me a freaking movie.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm still waiting for a good Jonathan Hex. That watching him in the one
Jonah
show,
Hex?
Jonah Hex.
Jonah
Sorry.
Hex, yeah.
Watching him in the other one is kind of never mind. Watching
DC
him
short
in the
with,
showcase one, the DC show,
yeah.
the showcase, and then getting a good glimpse of him in a War World, man, I was like, come on. I don't.
Well, you got to see Warlord Dad on an animated thing though.
Yeah.
I know. God, I want to see a Warlord movie. I want to see Travis Morgan's story. Just so many things that they could have done that they just didn't, and now I don't know if we're ever going to get it because I don't know what is his name, Saffron and Gunn. What's Gunn's partner?
Begins with an S.
I don't know what their vision
I think
is.
Peter Safran is right.
But
whatever. It's all he's behind the scenes. Gunn is the one actually boots on the ground calling the shots. The other guy, it's like marketing and decision making and stuff like that. So
I mean, if he has any hand in any of this, I mean, he understands what's going on. I mean, you think about like what he did with the Guardians films, and pulling all that lore that seemed to be missing from certain things with Marvel at times.
Man, have you seen the documentary I was telling you about? The one where they talk about the first Guardians film?
Not
Man,
yet.
nobody at Marvel had any faith in that. They were like, what is this? A raccoon, squirrel? You got a tree? Nobody's going to go see this movie. And Gunn was like sticking to it. I have a vision. That he brought his soundtracks in because that was one of the first things he did was he built his soundtrack, then wrote the film with that music in mind. Yeah, that music was meant to inspire each segment.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, no movie will ever accomplish anything like this. We need to have a score created. It has to have its own thing. And Gunn would kept saying no, man. And in the end, everybody was standing right next to Gunn, acting like it was them. They did it as a partnership.
Yeah.
Nobody had any faith in the guy except himself, and he pulled it off.
So I mean, if he can do that, I mean, especially considering how good 3 was, I have faith in what he's doing. I
can't wait to see what he's going to do with Superman. Everybody's complaining. He's going to have too many characters. Too many characters is not the problem.
No,
it's storytelling.
It's how many superhero movies? Not okay. You can't count the Avengers because the Avengers had all the solo films building up to it, right? How many individual superhero movies that didn't have 6 movies beforehand building them up came into it with a oh my god, what's the word?
Ensemble?
It's late.
Ensemble cast.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
came in with an ensemble cast from jump and actually turned out well and gave each character their due to where you got to the end of it, you felt like each one of them had their moment, each one of them had their time, right? How many can we actually say those really exist?
Well, I
So
have
like
to, if we're going to say that, you have to go take in filmmaking in all of its encompassing. There was a time when a lot of blockbuster movies were just like that, filled
well,
with every big
but
name actor, and they each got like a few minutes time, but they gave them their due. Either they died or they rescued somebody, you
Magnificent
did something,
Seven.
you
You
moved
know,
on.
yeah, I get
the
that.
the problem that you have that's different when it comes to superhero movies, and it's not fair, right? It's because you can technically do the same thing that you did with those old movies with these. The problem is that you go into them, and so many of these characters have so much history, so many little things that,
Nuances about
like
the
this
character.
is live action. This is live action Guy Gardner, right? It's like, okay, is this just gonna be, which version of Guy is this gonna be? Is he if it's Nathan Fillion, he's older. Is he married to Ice, right? Like, is like what all is going on now? There's like all this backstory, and it's like, how much of this are you going to get? How much is this going to be established? Like, all so there's this unfair level of expectation, I think, that partially goes into what we're going to see of these characters, and so that's where it kind of turns into, that feeling of, oh man, my character, the one that I really wanted to see, got shorthanded because they needed to spend more time
Yeah,
focusing
because
on
it's a
a
personal
hot girl or whatever.
preference. I
Right,
want to
right.
see my
Yeah.
But
character. I don't want to.
right. So
Why'd you
so
give
that's
them
that's where
at time?
right. And so that's where, whenever you have an ensemble, like for Guardians, they're all the same team. They're all of the same team. They each have their own backstories and all that, but also those were vague enough heroes that there wasn't a whole lot of attachment to them. And in fairness, like Hot Girl and Guy Gardner aren't exactly, top tier names of people that everyone's going to jump to and know a bunch of history about. So it can work, but at the same time, it's this kind of idea of everyone's been waiting on another truly great Superman movie, and now that we're getting another bite at the apple, you're injecting all these other heroes into it. So I understand people's trepidation. I have that trepidation myself going into it. But I also, James Gunn's style doesn't exactly jive with me very well. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. I have hope to see what he's going to do with it, but at the same time, I understand people's kind of frustration at this not being a true Superman solo movie, and at the same time, it kind of having the potential of being overstuffed in the sense that it's got to establish a lot of new lore, it's got to establish all this stuff, and at the same time, you still have to tell a cohesive, contained story to this movie.
I think what he's trying to do is he's establishing a world, and he doesn't have all these movies to build it up. So he's
Yeah.
leaving comics and everything as part of that lore. He's not going, okay, this is legacy. This
Yeah.
is, I'm starting this world. All of it exists. I'm just telling you a new origin for
News story.
Superman,
Yeah.
but it's in a world where other heroes exist. And as he travels the world and as he's doing things, trying to figure out who he is, he's going to run into all these different characters that are going to give him a new perspective on things. And
Mhm.
like I said, Birthright is one of my favorite origins of Superman because it took him from Smallville and didn't just stick his butt straight into Metropolis. It bypasses some of, like, in the comics, he went to college, and there was Smallville, Midville, and he was in Midville. That's where he met Laura Lars, who was the mermaid, and all this other. And he found out about the Atlanteans, and they kind of got rid of all that. They got rid of Superboy. We don't have Superboy anymore, and so Birthright was like, okay, so how do we give Superman that worldly knowledge, that worldly view? Well, we have him traveling the world. And as he's doing that and he's seeing what's going on throughout the world, he's learning to hone his writing style, his skill, his storytelling, the ability to perceive what's going on and put that down on paper so other people can understand what's going on in the world. He became somebody who was a uniter and a connector because of that journey. And I believe that's kind of where he's going with this. And if that's true, then we're going to get the Superman we need that a Justice League could be built around. You know, I'm sorry, Batman is not a uniter. He is really a loner, but he plays well with others. But he also plans how to kill them if they go astray. You know,
Yeah.
Superman has that ultimate faith. You know, he was like, I would never do that. Why? You're a fool. No, because I have faith and belief in who these people are. And I know that we all sometimes go astray, but if there's people and friends there who can reach them, you can bring them back from that. And that's what we need in a Superman. We need hope back. And that was what was missing in all of Snyder's stuff. And if he can do it and pull it off, my fear, this is my biggest fear. I loved the Christopher Reeves movie. It got too comical towards the end. There was too much comedy. Same thing happened what we saw with Waititi when he did Thor: Love and Rocket. He destroyed that
Love and Thunder.
by adding way too much humor. Now they're going back. It's going back to the much darker Thor all of a sudden. That's going to be a contrast to people who like the new version of Thor, but they're going to go for it. I'm like, okay, let's see what you do. Bring Kenneth Branagh back. Let him direct it to kind of get the ship righted. But the universe is going to be built on this Superman. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And if that is done right, and we get to see him meeting all these people and learning from them, it's a good foundation. I think what he's here doing is building a foundation that can be built on by others, instead of trying to build a foundation on a floating raft that's just impacted by the whims of fate, water, and everything else. He's going to give you a good grounding. If they don't like it, they're going to fire him. You know that.
Yeah.
But
I was about to say, technically, all of these things are still affected by the whims of fate. Fate being, board executives. And,
I know, and
being counties.
But he has the experience because he had to deal with Marvel for 2 movies.
Yeah.
Of how to go. I'll listen to what you say. I like that idea. Walk out the door. I'm going to do what the hell I want.
But he was also using. In a sense, he was kind of playing with house money in the sense that he was coming in with unknowns, right? Unknown quantities, and he was able to make a massive hit out of it. Now he's kicking this off with Superman, right? It's like if he walked up the first day and was handed Spider-Man, right? I don't know how much creative control they would have allowed him going into such a huge thing like that. So that's, and also Warner Brothers and DC are just awful about getting their grimy hands into every little thing. So
everything. Well, Marvel was too. I mean, if you saw what Favreau went through, because Favreau was a indie director, right? He wasn't a what do you call that? A guaranteed thing. And there was like, no, we need to get somebody big in here, and Favreau won them over. And one of it was because Favreau read comics. He loved these characters. He understood them, and so he could speak their language. The problem is that with DC, they're all bean counters instead of fanboys. They're, and Marvel brings in all these writers who were writers of the comics. So, the only time that they have a problem with their making a filmmaking movie is when they give it to somebody else who's never written a comic and never read a comic.
Like Taika.
So if DC will just kind of pay attention and listen and see what works, instead of following Disney down that's Marvel, following the same path that Disney and Warner Brothers is taking, give it over to the people who love it, know what they're doing. If you need, have a studio exec standing over their shoulder and going, got to keep you on schedule. We got to make these films. Because if not, you get distracted, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're 200 days overshooting, your budget shot, and you don't even have half a film. You still need somebody there to shepherd you, but stay out of the way when it comes to the creative part of it. Accountants are the only time accountants are creative is when they're trying to steal from people.
As long as we get the Superman we know and love that we enjoy, and not the dark and brooding. I don't even know if I want to be Superman. I'm not going to go and try to save my dad because he told me no, kind of nonsense. I mean, I want
No, we're supposed to. He's Gunn is bringing back Mom and Pa Kent. They're going to.
Yeah.
He goes. Superman is a farm boy.
yeah.
His foundation is from that, and you can't have him without that. So that's playing a big role in this new Superman movie.
Good.
I'm just like, don't kill off Pa.
No.
Do like they did after Crisis, and let him stay around for a while, because that was his sounding board. When Clark was in trouble, he'd fly home. He didn't go talking to Mom. He sat on the porch. His dad would see him come out, sit down next to him on the porch, talk to him. His dad was a World War II vet. He'd seen a bunch of stuff, and he goes, "What's going on?" He goes, "You won't understand." He goes, "Look, I saw people get blown up right next to me. I've seen everything. What do you need? Let me help you." And that taught Clark that you can't take it all on yourself. You got to rely on the people around you as a support group. And that's what made that time period of Superman. He went from being great during World War II, came out, kind of faded like Batman did, and every to obscurity. And then all of a sudden, we had this big event, and you had younger writers who loved this stuff and were around long enough, but they also knew, grew up watching soap operas with their parents and kind of saw that, and they were like, well, we're going to combine it. So then they created a mix of just superhero stories with life stories, and nobody did that better than Marvel. Everybody felt I could associate with him. I could never associate with Superman. I never could associate with Batman. I was never rich, never powerful. I liked all the heroes, but I've said this before. To me, they were gods, the pantheon of gods, where Marvel was a bunch of schmucks who got power and had to struggle with it because power didn't make their life any better. So
Well, and just
we're
last
standing
thing,
at another precipice. It can either be really great, or
it's
we'll
gonna
be
fail,
watching
yeah.
the ending of something that will
could.
fade away.
So, and like that one thing I'll add real quick was that, that's what made Smallville so good was those moments of Clark talking with his dad, you know, in the barn, that
Yeah.
stuff, that humanizing. That's what we didn't get with Man of Steel. There wasn't enough time with, Paul Kent there, other than, oh, there's a tornado. Don't
Where's
go save me.
Paul? He's over there dancing with wolves. So.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And we thought that like Kevin Costner was going to be a
I
great
thought he was going to
fit,
be perfect. I really
Yeah.
did. Yeah.
but
It dances with whirlpools.
But
dances-
the thing is that Paw taught fear, whereas the original Paw taught hope, and that is the difference. What you get from
Well,
those two lines of
that was the
thought.
big thing about Clark coming back, from the dead, was his dad coming to find him and helping him. That was like,
Yeah.
was that one of the issues was Clark in the afterlife, and
And his dad said, you're not done. You've
Yeah.
given up, but the world is not done. They need you, and you need to go back." And he was like, "I don't want that. I don't want to go back anymore. I'm tired." And then he gave him that big thing, and that's why Clark returned.
Yeah. But all right, so anything else, guys, for the Crisis on Infinite Earths? I think we covered quite a bit and added some extra.
If you haven't seen it, buy it, watch it, rent it, find some way to watch it. I think you'll be very pleased with both of them.
Yeah, they're really, really good. I mean, even the complaints that we had weren't like big things. It's just like we're so invested in it, we're intrigued, but it's like we're kind of like, okay, this could have been done a little bit better, but it doesn't make the fact that the film is bad because of that.
Yeah.
Some of this is really good storytelling.
I mean,
Go
like I
ahead.
said, my main thing was I think that the first one set the bar high, right?
It
And
did.
again, because of the way it was structured, it's a lot easier to follow. And I really feel like this one fell a little short from that because of how jumbled it was. And I really feel like I feel like I can't completely pass judgment on this one yet until I see the third one.
Right.
It's like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, but I feel like the third one's really going to cement whether or not I can look back on the second one and say, "Oh, okay, I see what they were going for. I see what they were building up. yes, now I can say this was great. Right now, I'm like, it's okay,
Well, even,
but I want to
Pumping the
see I
brakes,
want to
but you're
see
not
the end.
stopping.
Yeah,
well, in theater, the second act is always the toughest act. It's the darkest act. It's where all the
yeah.
bad stuff.
Star Wars, New Hope, all that stuff.
Well,
Or
not just that. You
not New
look at
Hope, Empire Strikes Back, all that stuff. Like I get it, but it's again, it's the way that they constructed this with all the loose ends and how they're laid out, right? It's one thing to have loose ends in a story, and
Pacing.
and again, if it wasn't like the weird way that they kind of narratively put this together, it wouldn't bug me as much. But it was that constant like me having to stop and think to myself, where the hell am I? And what is going on? And what is this? And who is this? And how is this way?
That is
And
not my
like what
beautiful wife.
like it just this one snapped me out of me being in it
reality.
more, right? It kept pulling me back in, it kept pulling me out of the movie and making me think of, wait, how does this make sense with the first one that I just watched? So, like I said, I'm not, this one didn't destroy my desire to see the end. I want to see the end, and I really feel like a lot of like the negative feelings I have for this could be fixed depending on how we see it resolved
Well,
in the next
yeah,
one.
there's a lot of threads out there that have to be brought together and to make a cohesive ending. And if it
And
doesn't, it's
how
going to leave too many plot holes.
yeah, and how they bring those threads together will matter to me.
Matter.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, definitely, check it out and
So, did you watch
go
it
through.
once or twice?
I ended up watching it twice. I watched it once just by itself, and then I went back and I rewatched the first one and then watched the second one right after it.
Because I watched it and then I complained to Vince at first. I was like, too much Batman. I was just like, I want to see more of the other characters,
Yeah.
And after I'd gotten through it and I could see what it was and figure out everything that first showing, I really enjoyed it the second time. I really enjoyed it the second time.
Yeah, I mean, again,
Um,
there's stuff there to like. Um, again, there's just it's we'll see where it goes, right? I'm looking forward to the third one. I'm hoping the third one knocks it out of the park. I'm hoping it's great. I'm hoping they're able to bring all this together, show us a bunch of these other cool characters, and balance it out and make it work. And that goes for part three of this. That goes for Superman Legacy, or I guess it's just called Superman now, right? So
yeah,
like
it's just super.
DC in general, they seem to have a decent future coming to them, and I really hope they're able to
Execute
put
on
it
it.
all
Yeah.
together and yeah, execute it well enough that we can come out of the theater and be excited for a new DC
That
property
another film
coming out,
Yeah.
right?
Colin, your thoughts? Final
Uh,
wrap.
just gonna mirror everybody else's. I mean, this is my
More
number one all-time.
Constantine.
Yeah, more Constantine. Yeah.
I'm fine with the amount of Constantine, and I know he's gonna be in the third one. But this was my favorite story of DC of all time, and I'm able to follow it along on a deeper level, and I can see the A to B's on it. I'm with David though. I want to see how they're gonna fix. I want to see all the little threads and little bumps in two are gonna be played out in three. You know, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the third part and seeing how I hope to see the explanation of how certain things get to be where they are now, and I'm really hoping to get to see the Flash, and I want to see that part of the storyline, the part that made Barry Allen who he was.
Yeah, the living legacy that he.
And as far as Superman Legacy becoming Superman, they might as well just call it Superman with an asterisk.
With an asteroid? No.
That's right, with an asteroid, with a giant kryptonite asteroid that
Asteroid,
he's
yeah,
gonna have
yeah.
to lift out of the ocean
At
and
least
throw
he's got
into
the
space.
freaking curl on his head.
Yeah,
So
so-
the anime, Witchblade. All right, since we're gonna start playing big, no, I'm just messing. Go ahead, go ahead.
God damn it! I want to end this shit. No. Anyway, I guess for me the thing is I'm going to be picking up. I just found out that the collection, the volume for it is like $30. So I'm going to order it Wednesday so I can actually read through it. And so whenever the third part, I'll be at least having more knowledge than what I've put
Try
together.
to pick up all the offshoot or the connective stories, because it's one thing to read the original 12 issues, you know, as a collected.
Mm-hmm.
You miss out on all the other books that were involved in that story,
To
where
help add
certain
to it.
things happened that you needed to follow through on certain plot lines.
Mm-hmm.
And without it, you're going to go, okay, well, what happened to this person? What happened with this? What was the resolution here? Well, you didn't get that. You got the big stuff in the original run, and all the little stuff, all the impactful things, and the people and the struggles. That all came from the individual issues.
So when we do the third and fourth episode for us reviewing this and then reviewing the series as a whole, maybe we can all read that and then compare and contrast even further than just memory.
I know I have the whole series digitally, so
Okay.
I'll find it.
Yeah.
I know I
But
have-
oh, sorry, go ahead, Colin.
that's what I was just saying. I know I have at least the core story digitally. So if
Okay.
I can find them, I'll bundle them up, put them on my server for everybody.
Yeah, sounds good. But everyone, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd love to know what your thoughts are. Did you read the original comic? Have you watched part 2? Let us know down below. We'd love to hear your comments and respond. So definitely take time, leave us some comments. But in the meantime, everyone, have a great one. Stay super. Peace out.
This is